And good afternoon in India, good morning and in Europe and United States, and good evening in Australia. So we got participants from all over the place. So greetings to everybody. Before we start, let me welcome you all for this important workshop being organized by the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences. We call it NAAS in collaboration with the World Food Prize Foundation. Through this workshop, as a part of International Borlaug Dialogue of the World Food Prize Foundation, we are also celebrating International Year of Millets. And I'm very excited to share that for this workshop, though right now about 100 people have joined, but we got the registration for more than 500 participants from about 29 countries, from Asia, Africa, Europe, and also from South America, in addition to United States or so. So I think we are going to have very exciting session. But on this occasion, let me welcome our President, Dr. Himanshu Pathak, President, National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, Secretary, Department of Agriculture Research and Education, and DG ICR. Though he is on travel, but he has kindly accepted our request to grace the session. So we are very much grateful to you. I also would like to welcome other dignitaries of National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, including our Vice Presidents, Dr. A.K. Singh, Dr. Vajravarga, and also our Secretaries, Professor K.C. Bansal, who is also co-convener of this session, and Dr. Wajir Lakra, and all other members of the Executive Council. I'm very happy to see many senior colleagues joining this session, including Professor R.V. Singh sir, Professor P.K. Joshi, Dr. Mehtab Vamji, and many other senior colleagues. I may not be able to mention their name, but our greetings to all of them. Would like to also welcome all the esteemed fellowships and associates of NAAS and all other fellow researchers and delegates. So we are very excited to have you all in this session. Now let me give a brief background of the session. And before that, I am also would like to mention that we got very exciting speakers, very good panel of the speakers from different countries. And here we got experts in R&D and policy making from the leading international organizations such as ICRISAT. We got Dr. Arvind Kumar, the Crop Diversity Trust, Dr. Luigi Guarino, who is the chief scientist there, and from ISRA CERAAS, Dr. Ndjido Ardo Kane, who is former director of that institute, and also Dr. Professor P V Varaprasad from Kansas State University, and IRRI, Dr. Joanna Kane-Potaka, who is the Deputy Director General for Strategy, Impact, and Partnership from IRRI. In addition to Dr. Tara Satyavathi, who is the Director of the leading ICR Institute for Millet Research, we call it ICAR-IIMR. So I would like to welcome all of you, all the speakers and panelists for this important session. Now, very briefly, why we are organizing this session. So we know that the World Food Prize Foundation, every year they organize their annual day and annual events in United States. But for last couple of years, they started to organize International Borlaug Dialogue. And through these dialogues, they discuss the temporary issues in agriculture. And we are very grateful to the World Food Prize Foundation for their partnership with the National Academy of Agriculture Sciences from India to organize this session. This year, we thought to discuss about millets. Why? Because of two reasons. One is the millets offer a gluten-free, nutritionally rich, and health-promoting alternating crops. They have the potential to improve health outcomes and boost the economic prospects of farmers in developing countries, investing in R&D activities, and promoting crop diversification by bringing millets in our existing food chain system can further enhance the benefits and sustainable cultivation of millets. Second, 2023 is the International Year of Millets, and therefore it provides us an opportunity to raise the awareness of the economic, nutritional, and environmental benefits of millets. India plays an important role in millets because there has been an elimination of food diversity and a reduced importance of millets in recent years in Indian farms and food consumptions. So millets have also been dominated by consumption and importance of rice, wheat, and maize. So the question is that how we can bring it back. So therefore, in this session, we are having really very eminent speakers who are that leaders in their field. And we got esteemed fellowships and many eminent scientists in this session. So we believe that in this session, We will discuss how millet should be a crop of consideration, particularly in drought-ravaged soils and arid climates, how we can enhance its adoption by farming community as well as consumers. This session will highlight why farming millets is crucial in combating food security and nutrition, while also promoting its climate resilient qualities. So I think this is our idea, and we are grateful to our Honorable President to have this session, who is the chair of this important session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Himanshu Pathak, President of NAAS and Secretary DARE and DG ICR, for delivering opening remarks. And very briefly, he is well-known administrator and scientist, but would like to mention very briefly about him. Dr. Pathak has been associated with agricultural research and development in India and abroad for the last 3 decades. His area of research and education has been soil science, climate change, environmental pollution, and aquatic stress management. Not only he is an able administrator as a Director General of ICR, he is a distinguished scientist as well. He is an elected fellow of several academies, including Indian National Science Academy, National Academy of Sciences, and of course, National Academy of Agriculture Sciences and Humboldt Foundation, and also recipient of Rafi Ahmed Kidwai Award of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, which is the topmost agriculture science award. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And now we would like to request you for your opening remarks. So meanwhile, I will open your slides, but you can please start.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Varsne. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to each and every one of you. I am really happy to see many of our senior colleagues, including Professor R.B. Singh, Madam Bamji, and many others, our honorable vice presidents, and everybody who have joined this particular session today. My special thanks are our invited speakers who have joined from different parts of the world, as Dr. Varsne very rightly said. Colleagues, as you know, that the whole world is celebrating International Year of Millets 2023. Why millets and so on? So I shall give you a very brief presentation of the background of the whole thing. And then, of course, I shall request you to give your very considerable comments. You know, millets are a collective group of small seeded annual grasses. All of us know very well. These are ancient food grains, very resilient to climate. And of course, being grown not only in India, but many parts of the world for quite a long time. These are the first plants to be domesticated around 8,000 before Christ, so around 10,000 from now. Our earlier revisions found in the Indus Valley civilization, which dates back 3,000 to 4,000 years. And of course, millet is also a traditional food for around 60 crore people in Asia as well as in Africa. Next. There are several types of millets, and our subsequent speakers will be deliberating more on this, starting from finger millet, pearl millet, great millet, and so on. Besides these photographs, there are many others also. All of the millets are not considered. So there are quite a number of crops which are grouped into millets. Next one. These millets have got some unique properties. These are very good for health, very good for nutrition, but moreover, these are also resilient to climate. So in brief, we could say that these are the crops which are good for consumers, which are good for cultivators, and which are also good for climate. Next one. Several health benefits of millets. I am not going to tell you the details of all of these things. And for last 1 year or so, not only government of India, but several other governments are promoting these as a food which have got several benefits for health. Next one. Just to give you some ideas about the millet statistics, the whole world produces around 90 million tons of millet.
Are you there, sir? It seems we have lost Dr. Pathak. His connection is not stable probably.
Yeah, you can mute him.
Let me send a message via WhatsApp if we can.
He mentioned that he'll be on travel, so maybe.
Yeah.
He's in Philippines attending the IRC.
So, okay, so we can
Yeah,
wait.
it was discussed, but
Okay. Yeah, we are back.
you hear me now?
Hmm.
That was, can you put it in the
This is the one.
slides? Some more? Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm.
So, though I said that we are growing millets for thousands of years, but then of late you will find that the area as well as production has gone down rather, not only in this country, but globally. Next one. This is what the export of millet. I shall not go into the details of these numbers. The numbers are also fluctuating like the area and production. Next one. Of course, India, if you see the statistics of millet, it produces around 15 million tons. And I said total world millet production is around 98 million tons or so. And in India,
There's again problem.
Yeah, maybe he will come back as he did before. We can wait for a minute.
Okay.
Dr. Bharsane, I'm already back.
Okay, okay, sir. Yeah, I was just making sure that
there is some problem.
back to meeting.
Yeah. Can you
I-
put the slides on mode?
Yeah, I got some problem at my end now. Yes, sorry, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, as I said, that in this country, in India, almost all states grow this more millet. But if you see the percentage in terms of global production, so then in few millets like Kodo millet, Barnyard millet, Little millet, almost 100% of the total production comes from this country only. Next one, please. Of course, we not only have got the largest area, but if you see the total export, again, India exports a sizable quantity of millet. Some of the values have been given over here. More than 228 million Indian rupees we export. Domestic consumption is also quite significant. And
So if you can hear us, maybe you can try to put off your video.
next one, Dr. Varshney.
Yes, sir. So there is a request. If you can mute your video, then probably we will have better bandwidth. So if you switch off your video, but yeah. Mhm.
Okay, that's fine. That look good. Okay, and India export millet to several countries. This particular map shows in which country we are exporting and how much of that one is going from India. Next one. Okay, so these are some of the background. But then let me tell you that millet research in this country is quite old. Quite old. Starting from 1958, India has been working on improving the genetic stock, development of new varieties, and also management practices. So in this country, we have got quite extensive network of research institutes as well as universities. Though our nodal institute of millet research is located in Hyderabad, we call it Indian Institute of Millet Research. And not only in production part, but for the processing part also, considerable progress has been made in recent years. This is just to show what are the processing activities which you do, starting from cleaning, destoning, grading, dehulling, polishing, and so on. Next one. And these are some of the just examples of what the secondary processing millet technologies. Let me tell you, besides our Indian Institute of Millet Research, now almost every institute in ICAR, that institute might not be directly related to millet research, but then they have come out with several of their recipes, several of their products, and many of these products are finding good market nationally as well as internationally. Next one. Of course, this is just a flow diagram of how it is going. But let me tell you, though this year we are celebrating as International Year of Millet, but the journey actually started in 2018 when India celebrated National Year of Millet 2018. And that time onwards, several activities were proposed in terms of research, in terms of promotion, in terms of value addition, and so on. Next one. So far as promotion and popularization, not only we are promoting in the country, but also all over the world. These are just some of the, next one you can go. These are some of the snapshots of how we are promoting the millets all across. Some of our states have come out their own mission of millet, like Odisha Millet Mission, Chhattisgarh Millet Mission, Rajasthan Millet Mission, and so on. And each of these states now have got a very clear-cut work plan of promoting millet, not only in their own state, but also throughout the country and also globally. Next one. But of course, the global notice came when the United Nations declared 2023 as International Year of Millet. So Government of India proposed it, and Government of India is really thankful to United Nations that it accepted the proposal of India, and then the whole world is celebrating International Year of Millet 2023. Next one. Several activities have been taken care of, starting from production, policy, and so on. And here, a good example has come that it is not only one department of Government of India. It is not only Department of Agriculture, Research and Education or Ministry of Agriculture, but almost all the departments of Government of India have been very closely associated with the promotion of millet, whether it is Department of Health, whether it is Department of Tourism, whether it is Commerce or Ministry of External Affairs, or any other ministry you can think of. So this is a very good example of whole of the government approach, where every department of Government of India is contributing to the best of their ability to promote millet all over the globe. Next. Of course, this is another development that Honorable Prime Minister of India has rebranded millet, given another name called Sri Anna. Anna is food, those who might not be knowing Sanskrit or Hindi. Anna means food. Sri is the one which has got all the qualities, all the beauties of food. So here is millet, which has got all the good qualities of a good food. As I said, these are some of the products which are coming from different states of the country in terms of promoting millet. Next one. And not only within the country, at the global level also, several initiatives have been taking place, particularly in this particular year. All the missions of Government of India located anywhere in the world have done some activities or the other to promote millet. Next. Starting from the opening ceremony, which was done at FAO headquarters, then of course, throughout the year, we had a very detailed plan of promoting millet in different countries. Next one. Big example was, of course, conducted in India, and next one is coming in Africa. Here in one of the global conference, our Honorable Prime Minister upgraded our Institute of Millet Research, Indian Institute of Millet Research, Hyderabad, into a global center of excellence on millet. So this is a big step ahead, and a sizable amount of money has also been allocated to upgrade the facilities of this particular institute for capacity building, doing global research, and to cater the needs of not only Indian global researchers, millet researchers, but also all over the world. Next one, please. These are some of the examples of what are the events which we have been organizing throughout the year, including hosting the G20 leaders of the delegations. Next. Another big achievement, I would say, that as you all know, that G20, for which India was having the presidency this year, and G20 was a big success. And one of the success stories of G20 is the Maharishi initiative. Maharishi initiative specifically focuses on promotion of millets and other ancient grains. With this, we are going to have a secretariat in Indian Institute of Millet Research. And of course, we are going to collaborate all the different countries of the world which are already growing millet or which are going to have a sizable amount of consumption of millet. And here I am very happy to share all of you that one of the G20 events, which was chaired by DARE, Department of Agriculture Research and Education, and I was chairing that particular session. It was in that particular session in Varanasi where this Maharishi initiative was agreed upon by all the members of G20 and also the invited members. So I'm really thankful to all the members of G20 for very supportive to have our proposition on Maharishi accepted and then taking it forward. Next one. Yes, of course, we also did a kind of study that how much is the total requirement or projection of additional millet. These are just some of the examples, and what we could find that whatever the consumption and production today is, there is considerable scope of enhancing the production because the demand for consumption is going to increase in a very big way. Next one. These are some of the other assessments of how which country is going to import or export millet from their countries or importing from other countries. So these are some of the numbers which shows that millet has got very good potential for increasing its production as well as consumption. Next one, please. Of course, here I would like to, maybe this one. That's right. So already, as I said, that after G20 summit, which accepted our proposition for Maharishi, we could already sign agreements with several other countries globally. Some of the examples include African countries like Namibia, Zambia, Mauritius, Central American countries, Oceania countries, South America, and also many other countries with which already Government of India has signed memorandum of understanding, and we are in the process of developing our work plan so that the production as well as value addition of millet can be promoted. And of course, in times to come, we will be able to provide more and more this healthy and climate resilient food to the global community. This is just to give you a brief idea, colleagues, about millet and what initiatives Government of India is taking. But I'm sure in today's session, we will be discussing in much more details of what we are going to do now. My request to all of you will be, as the whole year we have been observing and celebrating International Year of Millet. Now, if you can give us some very specific suggestions of how to go ahead, and your suggestions will be taken very positively by Indian Council of Agriculture Research and also by Government of India, so that we will be able to develop a very good roadmap of taking this initiative forward. As of now, the demand of millet is increasing. Concern has been expressed that whether we will be able to meet the demand, whether our production will really increase. Let me assure you that Indian Council of Agriculture Research, we have already taken a note of this. We already had several rounds of meetings, and we have put in place all the requirements so that whatever demands will come in terms of requirement of seed of different millets or the technologies, ICAR will be in a position to provide all of those, and Government of India will be very, very supportive to take this millet movement forward. With this, once again, I welcome each and every one of you for this very important session. And as this is already month of October, by December, we are going to conclude this particular year. But our earnest request is, let us come out with a good plan so that this enthusiasm and this energetic movement which Government of India has initiated should not die down just after the end of this particular year. And National Academy of Agricultural Sciences will be very, very happy to get your good suggestions to take the movement forward to promote this particular commodity, not only for this country or developing countries or African nations, but also to the global community. Once again, I thank the organizers, particularly Dr. Varsne and Dr. Bansal, and all these very senior and extreme delegates and fellowship of NAAS for kindly joining in this particular session and giving us your very valuable suggestions and guidance. Thank you very much. Wish a very productive session ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for very kind words and also providing very high-level overview and then the country's efforts and achievements under your leadership. So we are very much impressed. We are very much excited. Thank you very much for your time, despite of your busy schedule. So we are really grateful to you. And as you suggested, we will be taking the notes and we will be summarizing some of that recommendation if we have from this session. Thank you once again. Now we would like to invite Dr. Tara Satyavathi. And Dr. Tara is a Director, Indian Institute of Millet Research of ICR from February 2023. She has been serving ICR for about 23 years in various roles. She has extensive research experience in millets for more than 17 years. Before starting as a director, she served as a project coordinator for All India Coordinated Research Project on Pearl Millet for about 6 years at Jodhpur, Rajasthan. And before that, she served ICR, Indian Agriculture Research Institute in New Delhi as a program leader for Pearl Millet Improvement. She has been promoting millets through various events as a part of the ICR activities and most importantly, through G20 events in recent times. So floor to you, madam. Please join us.
Thank you, Dr. Raju. I'm trying to share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, this is coming. So yeah.
Full screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a very good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. In continuation to the previous speaker, Dr. Pathak, where he introduced about millets and the steps taken by India in promoting millets and also celebration of International Year of Millets. I'm continuing in that. As mentioned, we are having different kinds of millets, but in India, we are working on 9 millets, 3 major millets, that is sorghum, pearl millet, and ragi, which occupy about 95% of the total millet area, followed by 6 minor millets, that is foxtail millet, kodo millet, little millet, barnyard millet, prosa millet, and brown top millet, which constitute about 5% area. Though there is some interest in teff and fonio, not much interest is going on right now in India. For the sake of production, consumption, and trade point of view, Government of India has renamed these millets as nutri-cereals because of their superiority in the nutritional profiles. And recently, Honorable Prime Minister of India has termed them as Shri Ann. Already mentioned by Dr. Pathak, we are the major producers of the millets in the globe, and we contribute to about nearly 13.7 million hectares and nearly 15 million tons to the global production. So these are the major states where millets are produced in India: Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Karnataka, UP, MP, Tamil Nadu, and like that. And also already mentioned again, India is the sole producer of barnyard millet, then kodo millet, little millet, followed by then pearl millet, finger millet, and sorghum. As the main theme of International Year of Millet is to have to put millets on every plate, we have different interventions through awareness creation, nutrition and health benefits, and all these things taken by different ministries. ICR is also having a significant role looking after the enhancement of production and productivity. So in my talk, I would be focusing more of what ICR is doing in this role of enhancement of production and productivity of millets. So as again mentioned, in the country, in India, the millet genetic improvement is done through the National Millets Research Network, which is led by Indian Institute of Millet Research with its 2 regional centers, one at Sholapur and one at Warangal. And to this is the latest edition, which is going to come up in Barmer in Rajasthan on pearl millet. Apart from these 3, we also have 3 ASRPs on sorghum, that is All India Coordinated Research Program on sorghum, pearl millet, and small millets. And in these, AICRPs, we have different research centers located in different state agriculture universities. In sorghum, we have 18 research centers. In pearl millet, we have 12 research centers. In small millets, 13 research centers. And there are a number of central releases coming for millets from these different AICRPs. You can see in pearl millet, a maximum of 257 central releases. And in sorghum, 144. And small millets, 118 central releases have come. And apart from these, we also have in these centers a multidisciplinary, competent scientific and technical team who are continuously working for the millet improvement in the country. And if you look into what are the areas, how the millet improvement is taken in the country, first we have identified the suitable agroecological zones for millet cultivation in different states for different millets. And then we developed product profiles for all these agroecologies for different millets. And we are also using genetic resources for millet improvement. We are developing short duration cultivars so that they fit into the intercropping or the cropping systems. Also focusing our attention on breeding for resistance to major diseases and pests. We are also using marker-assisted breeding for parental line improvement, varietal development, heterotic grouping, genomic selection, mainstreaming of nutritional traits, especially in case of pearl millet, where we are #1 in all these things. Then we also have initiated and standardized hybridization programs in small millets, because the small millets, the grain size is very small and the floret size is very, very small. So to initiate hybridization in these small millets is a very Herculean task, but still our scientists are able to overcome these things and standardize the hybridization programs. We already have the transgenic technology ready in sorghum, but we have not yet released any sorghum transgenics. We are all in the process of standardization of speed breeding techniques in pearl millet and sorghum, and it is in progress in other millets. We are also prepared for genome editing in pearl millet and sorghum, while standardization has to be done in other millets. So if you look into the germplasm conservation and global and national genetic resources, in the world, this is the amount of germplasm available, and in India, this is the amount of germplasm. We have the National Gene Bank at the ICR-NBPGR and also the medium-term gene bank at IIMR. These are the extent of the germplasm and the genetic resources available. And then we also have screened and evaluated the germplasm available with us, and also have come up with some important useful plant genetic resources of different millets, and we have come up with the different registrations which can be used by the breeders directly along with the relevant informations. And coming to millet by millet, pearl millet is the major millet in India. At the global level, it is grown in about 30.93 million hectares. In India, about 7.41 million hectares. In pearl millet, we already have done heterotic grouping, and we are also using the molecular data to supplement the selection of parental lines. And if you see, as I have already mentioned, we identified the suitable agroecological zones where these millets are grown. So in pearl millet, we have identified 3 agroecological zones, A1 zone, A zone, and D zone. And also we also identified the special agroecological niche areas. And there we identify summer pearl millet, and we have come up with different product profiles. What are the duration of the varieties? What is the total area under that agroecology? And we have come up with different profiles. And for the benefit of the audience, I would like to say here, we have transformed from food security to nutritional security, where mainstreaming of nutrition traits is being done. For the first time ever in the world, a policy decision is taken where iron and zinc, which are the micronutrient contents or the nutritional traits, have been mainstreamed in the All India Coordinated Pearl Millet Improvement Program, where we have benchmark levels of grain iron 42 ppm and zinc of 32 ppm. Without these minimal benchmark levels of iron and zinc, we are not going to promote any entry which is tested in the All India Coordinated Research Program for identification or for release, or not even promotion. So till date, we have about 40 hybrids released after we have introduced this system in 2018. Coming to sorghum, again, sorghum grown at a global level of 41.55 million hectares. In India, sorghum is grown for grain in about 4.37 million hectares, and forage sorghum 4 million hectares. And these are the different production systems of sorghum. We see Kharif grain sorghum, that is rain-fed, then Rabi grain sorghum, then summer grain sorghum, forage sorghum, single cut, multi-cut, sweet sorghum for biofuel production and all. These are the different states, and these are the different areas where these different types of sorghums are grown. And we also have come up with the product profiles for the rainy sorghum or the Kharif sorghum. These are the product profiles for the forage sorghum, whether it is single cut, these are the profiles. For multi-cut, these are the different product profiles. And then coming to finger millet, another major millet, where we talk of more area is there. Here again, this finger millet is grown both in high productive environments, hilly regions, and then summer and irrigated conditions. This is the capability of these agroecologies, and the product profiles again you can see here, which are coming up well in different geographical regions. Then foxtail millet. This is a minor millet or a small millet where it is grown for its low glycemic index. It is grown in most of small areas and then for short duration varieties. Here we have different, again, product profiles, early duration types and medium duration types. Then barnyard millet, again, here also we have those millets, those barnyard genotypes which are suitable for hilly regions in the north areas and southern plains, because barnyard millet is grown only 99 to 100% grown in India. Similar, then proso millet, again, this is one millet where we have high amount of protein content ranging from 14 to 18%. And people are planning to go for plant-based proteins to be extracted from proso millet, and there is a big demand for this. And here in India, it is a very short duration millet which completes its life cycle in 70 to 80 days. Next one is the kodo millet, which is adapted to hilly ecology and can stand salinity stress. And again, it is rich in dietary fiber and antioxidants. And the other millet is little millet. Again, this is also a medium to late maturing type with 85 to 90 days maturity. Here again, these are the different product profiles with early, medium, and late types. And also we have different races where Nana and Robusta with the different tailoring capability and other things where we are trying to introgress and use these characters in our breeding program to meet the requirements of different agroecologies. Yes, as already mentioned by my Dr. Pathak, that though there is a decrease in the area, you can see in red color, but there is a constant increase in productivity in all the millets. And if you see in the past 10 years, these are the number of varieties or cultivars that were released in different millets. And seed production in millets, it is done by either breeder seed or seed growers or farmers or self-sown seeds. But in millets, apart from self-pollinated crops, we have self-pollinated crops. We also have cross-pollinated crops, which are highly cross-pollinated like pearl millet or often cross-pollinated like sorghum, wherein hybrids are the mainstay. And here, both public and private are playing a major role. And in hybrid seed production, private is taking the lead. And we also have a seed hub program to strengthen the millet seed production. This is the quantity of seed breeder seed produced, and this is the quantity of the quality seed produced, which is directly supplied to the farmers. Breeder seed is supplied to the different agencies. And not only IIMR, which is from ICR, other institutions of ICR are also involved, like ICR-IIMR, ICR-IIRA, CPET, Ludhiana, CIAA, Bhopal. They are involved in technologies which are related to enhanced production, productivity, machinery development, shelf life enhancement, value addition. And also, ICRISAT is also involved in novel production technologies and protection technologies. Then University of Agriculture Sciences, Dharwad, Bangalore, Raichur, then Hisar, Haryana, all these are also involved. Rajasthan, they're involved in development of a number of varieties of pearl millet, finger millet, sorghum, and others. ICMR, National Institute of Nutrition, is involved in conducting research and coming up with nutritional composition of different millet varieties. Then CFTRA and NIFTM Kundli, they have crafted millet-based functional foods. And many institutions are doing research and supporting the cause of millets. Apart from doing research, we are also involved in transfer of technology to make these innovations and technologies reach the end users, that is the farmer, through either KVKs or the farmers producers organizations, or through the frontline demonstrations, or through the new niche areas like where we have, I said, in summer pearl millet in case of pearl millet, and then rice wallow sorghum in case of sorghum. Then apart from these things, we are also leading and supporting and come up with the different technologies for processing, value addition, and also validation of health claims. Been support along with the different ICMR institutes like NAN and others. And we are also involved in development of recipes, contemporary recipes, traditional recipes, and international recipes. It is just not thinking just we go increase the production and productivity. We also need to see that they reach the farmer and also the consumer or the end user who can use these millets because they're nutrition rich. So we have come up with different recipes. And we have our own brand of IIMR called as Eat Right. And we also are involved in development of FSSAI standards for millets, which are again released by Honorable Prime Minister on 18th March in the Global Sri Anna Conference. And we have our startup technology business incubator called NutriHub at IIMR, wherein we have a number of technologies created and have been given to different startups. And also we have different programs wherein the startups are hand-holded, they're given training on different millets, their production, different processing technologies, and what are the products where they can come up with all these millets. Like Dr. Pathak has shown different technologies available, primary processing technologies, secondary processing technologies, and advanced processing technologies, where we do hand-holding to these different startups. So apart from that, we are also involved in supporting, and we are also taking up millet missions along with states, different states at the national level, Karnataka Millet Mission, Rajasthan Millet Mission, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Kerala, then most important, Odisha Millet Mission, and all these things. And
if you can summarize, madam, that will be really good.
Yeah. So industry collaborations also, we have Nestle, PepsiCo, Marico, and all these things. Different activities are being taken up. And as mentioned, this is the G20 Agriculture Ministers visit to IIMR. And as mentioned, we are now elevated to the Global Center of Excellence in Millets. And this is our upcoming world-class research facility at IIMR with all these verticals. So as IIMR Global Center of Excellence, India would be able to support different countries through best practices on crop improvement, production, protection, value addition, processing, entrepreneurship development, and stakeholder engagement, and also scaling up millet value chains, also cooperation and mainstreaming millets. So these are the different activities. I'm not going into detail. So eat millets and stay healthy. Thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tara madam, for great presentation, for providing the perspective what you are doing under ICR, and this was really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I would like to request Dr. Arvind Kumar, Deputy Director General Research at ICRISAT. And as we know, ICRISAT is a lead research organization at international level who's working on millets. And very briefly about Dr. Arvind Kumar, before joining ICRISAT, he served IRRI, another CGR centers in various roles, starting from that postdoctoral fellow to the director of IRRI South Asia Research Center in Varanasi. And he's very accomplished researcher as well. He delivered several rice varieties, as well as he's also an elected fellow to National Academy of Agriculture Sciences, also Indian National Science Academy, and the recipient of Rafi Ahmed Kidwai Award as well. So we are very much pleased to have you, Dr. Arvind Kumar. We know that you are also on travel, but you have kindly joined us. Thank you very much. And floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Rajiv. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Based on the place where you have joined this important interaction meeting on millets for food and nutritional security, celebrating International Year of Millet. I will be making presentation on the ICRISAT perspective. Difficult to add after two wonderful presentations, one by Dr. Himanshu Pathak himself and followed by the Dr. Tara Satyavathi. But I do want to bring some new perspective to what millet we should be doing in millet in coming future. So we all know that millet is important for our health. And in fact, we have started saying this, but and realizing this in the recent years, that how good the millet is for the nutrition and for our health. But evidently, we have been knowing that how good millet is as a climate resilient crop over years. And in fact, our forefathers knew it. Now we know it, and even the climate change process tells that, you know, if there is any crop which will have minimum damage to the yield, these are the millet crops. Now, having said that, that has been disadvantage also to the millet, because everybody knew that, you know, millet is a strong crop, so push millet to the corner, and millet was pushed always to the most unfavorable land for the cultivation. And I do say it very frequently, that when it comes to comparing the profit and the profit that it brings to the farmer, it gets compared with the rice and wheat, where we put more input, where we provide rice and wheat the most favorable environment for the growth and the yield, and compare it with the millet, where we put it in the most unfavorable environment. But having said that, probably in the last few years we have realized more the importance of the millets. And more recently, after realizing about the health benefits, the climate resilience, we have also realized now that it contributes less to the lower carbon and water footprint. Very nicely said by both the speakers, number of millet species, number of millets are grown, and how millet are the critical part of the agri-food system, and where India stands for. So I don't go into this, but I do want to bring your attention that we do say that, you know, in 2018, we celebrated the National Year of Millet. In 2022, we are celebrating the International Year of Millet. But you still see, even if you compare between 2018 to now, the area under millet has decreased. The area under millet between 1970 to 2022, if you see, for sorghum is decreased by 70%, for pearl millet by 33%, for finger millet 53%, for minor millets. In fact, minor millets have vanished from many of the states where it was cultivated on a large scale. But evidently, I am more surprised about what happened between 2018 and 2022. The area is still going down. So isn't it that we need to put in more efforts? And Dr. Himanshu Pathak very rightly said that we should not forget millets after International Year of Millet, and probably we have to do a lot to bring millet back into our as staple food, into our food habit. Now coming to ICRISAT contribution, one of the contribution that we feel proud of is maintaining the gene bank and using the gene bank accessions to breed climate resilient and nutritious millets. ICRISAT have somewhere around 77,000 accessions of the different millets, including the sorghum, pearl millet, finger millet, and small millets. But more than that, we share these millets, these accessions, and we use these accessions in crop improvement, as well as developing using these in our genomic studies, which will come later in my talk. We feel proud of the work that ICRISAT has done in India, but as well as in Africa, in developing the new climate resilient nutritious varieties. And in fact, we partnered with ICR-IIMR in ensuring that the millets do have the required iron and zinc content, and the varieties without that the prescribed content by the ICIMR doesn't go into the farmer's field. Now, in sorghum, ICRISAT has developed over years more than 300 varieties, out of that 63 in India. In pearl millet, 300, again, more than 300 variety, out of that 186 varieties in India. And we have contributed to the hybrid varietal development in both these crops in a big way, both in the sorghum and the pearl millet. And of course, we have started working on the finger millet lately, and there is 2 varieties which has been released in India. Now, after Tara Satyavathi have presented the market segment based breeding, means ICRISAT contributes to that. In fact, we do the profile driven market segment breeding, and we use the germplasm donors the disease monitoring system, but also over last few years, we have developed the rapid generation advancement technique for the millets, which is coming in a big help to the crop improvement to develop better varieties. One of the greatest contribution, I would say, that ICRISAT has brought in courtesy Rajiv Vasne and the team is the novel phenomic and genomic tools for precise use in the crop improvement. In fact, if you see that how much genomic tools have been used into the rice, wheat, and maize, it is ICRISAT which put in its effort to ensure that the genomic tools in for the pearl millet, sorghum, and the other finger millet are at the best place. And in fact, everybody has started recognizing the genomic tools that has been developed at the ICRISAT. So that is where we are harnessing the genomic tools, developing the genomic resources, including the reference genome, pan genomes, gene expression, and the markers, developing the QC panel, identifying the superior haplotypes and the high throughput genotyping platforms, and then deploying genomic tools into the breeding, and in fact, going up to the extent of using the gene editing for complex trait, including the shelf life of the pearl millet as well as the striga resistance. Now, after you have the varieties, the seed system is important. And we all know, I know we have made tremendous effort to improve the seed system, but let us accept that the seed system for millets are not as developed as that for the rice, wheat, or maize. And so we have to put in a lot of effort. So this would be my first recommendation, that we are doing well with the crop improvement. Everybody says the productivity is increasing. We know that the productivity of millets in India is more than the world general average. And in fact, this is one of the rare examples where we have higher productivity than what is happening in other countries. But then we have to put in a lot of effort if we want to, on the seed system, if we really want millet to be moving every corner of the India. ICRISAT introduced the concept of the HPRC, where we work with the private and public sector, and in fact, where ICRISAT develops the basic breeding material. And in fact, this model has worked very well, where the private sector have come forward to develop the seed of the hybrids that they present. And in fact, it is going in a big way. ICRISAT is also working towards improving the informal seed system and also developing digital seed corridor, linking different stakeholders. Now, one of the important aspects which I would like to bring is that learning that we have working here together with the ICR-IIMR and other stakeholders, we are together bringing it to Africa. And in fact, we have proposed the similar kind of concept of working with the private sector in Africa. Now, wherever we all know that millet needs the whole value chain. And in fact, if that is not there, millet is not moving. So we have the problem of the market linkages for the millet, and we have always struggled to keep that balance between supply and demand. Even if we know that the millet market is expected to grow, we also know that millet will be coming in a big way as the organic food component. But still we have the problem, we see the problem that, farmers are not getting the kind of price that they should be getting. And so that always brings a hitch in the mind of the farmer, where how much millet they should be growing. And in fact, we work with the different stakeholders in ensuring the availability of quality inputs. We work in strengthening the value chain. We work towards the capacity building and enhancing entrepreneurship skills, and also to link them with the ENAM and various procurement schemes together with the other stakeholders. Now, I do want to bring a different kind of prospect, that if we really want to bring millet in the diversification, and in fact, over last 2 years, we have been analyzing that where is the prospect of millet, especially in Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, where we have lost a sizable amount of area being shifted from millets to the rice and other crops. And in fact, I do believe, and in fact, that it has to go at a holistic approach. If we want millet to be cultivated more and more, we have to take a holistic approach. And in fact, we have number of opportunities, climate change, natural resource, market demand, everything is happening. And then if we work together with the farmers, FPOs, FPCs, private sector, startups, midstream, I think we should be able to push millet. But let me tell you that it has to be done on an analysis basis. If we push millet, where millet doesn't fit, it will not work. We did analysis and we know that there are 2 districts in Punjab where we can bring more profit to the farmer than the rice. And if we put the value chain development and other aspects there, I see no reason that why we will not succeed disseminating millet there. And same could be the scenario for the other areas also. What are the appropriate cropping zone and how do we bring millet at the appropriate place? And that would help us to bring higher yield, also bring a sustainable diversification, and also resilience, and also the carbon neutral landscape, and in fact, then achieve the sustainable development goals of nutrition, health, food security, prosperity, livelihood, gender equality, and environmental health and biodiversity. We do put a lot of effort towards the capacity development. And in fact, I told about the genomic tools. I told about the phenomic tools. I did tell about the disease donor identification and using in the crop improvement. And we work with the scholars from the different institutes, the research fellows, the scientists from different institutes. And in fact, we develop a mass of the young scientists who work in the millet. And we do also work with the extension workers, entrepreneurs, government officials, and SSGs and the FPOs. My last slide about the smart food. And in fact, it has come in a different way also. Now we see it Sri Anna and other concepts. And whatever name we say, means we all know that, you know, the millets are good for us, good for the planet, and good for the farmer. And in fact, ICRISAT has been working with the number of partners towards mainstreaming millet in the food, also through also nurturing innovative research and development, also the fundraising, and also catalyzing the demand creation through publicity. And in fact, we have to keep these efforts. Now, I remember Dr. Pathak said, make some recommendations for the future. I do have a few recommendations. See the investment that has gone in the millet research. Now in 2023, we feel proud of the investment that Government of India has planned, but probably more investment needs to go into the research. I see investment going towards the facility development. I'm very happy to see ICIMR coming as a global research institute, but probably more investment needs to go towards research on the millet. But I would say more on the minor millets. Minor millets we have really left over years. I mean, Dr. Tara Satyavathi herself said that we are now trying to bring the hybridization. And look, compare it with the rice. Where do these minor millets stand? Where we are still trying to standardize the hybridization. So it's I'm saying everybody's fault. In ICRISAT also, we didn't put that much effort on the minor millet, and we know that they are the highest nutritious crop, I would say, minor millets. My second part is also towards invest more towards the quality seed production. Probably for the millets, we are far behind, and we have to put in more efforts. My other comment would be invest more on research on the grain quality for the millets, grain and cooking quality. We all know the millet is nutritious, but the moment it gets cold, we don't want to eat it. Rice and wheat became popular. I have worked on the rice because of its grain and cooking quality and ability to cook very quickly. We haven't done enough research on this, and probably there is a time that we invest a lot on the grain and cooking quality. We took all the processing measures to make millet smart, but that's the makeup. We are doing the makeup of on our grain and cooking quality. Probably we should be investing more.
Very good.
The grain cooking quality of the grain itself. My last comment would be investment on gene editing for the millets. When it comes to gene editing, probably be somewhere sideline millet. millet do have especially the pearl millet, the shelf life, it has to improve if we want pearl millet to become the staple food of everybody. With this, once again, thank you to NAAS and thanks to Dr. Rajiv Basne, to Professor Bansal for this opportunity. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for very nice presentation, for providing very nice perspective of ICRISAT, a global research institute on the different areas, and also providing the recommendation. This is fantastic. Thank you. Now, I think we heard both Dr. Tara Satyavathi and also Dr. Arvind Kumar from the perspective of the crop improvement. And when we were talking about these things, the germplasm, the use of germplasm, that diversity is very, very important. So for providing this perspective from the genetic diversity, crop diversification, and especially use of the germplasm, conservation and use of the germplasm, we got expert Dr. Luigi Guarino. He's a chief scientist with the Crop Diversity Trust in Bonn in Germany. And very brief introduction about him. As a chief scientist, Luigi advises the Crop Trust on scientific, strategic, and policy matters. And he has a rich experience working with the CGR centers, FAO, as well as in Fiji, including many areas, including germplasm collections, measuring, locating, and monitoring genetic diversity. In various roles, he coordinated the regional plant genetic resources network in the Pacific and worked for Biodiversity International in Africa, Latin America, and West Asia and North Africa in a variety of roles. So we are very much pleased to have you, Luigi. Luigi, please, floor is yours. So you can share your slide or.
Thank you very much. Let me share my slides. Yes.
Yeah.
If I can.
If not, I can also share from my side if you wish.
Can you see it?
That's okay. Good, good. Thanks. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. Many thanks and greetings, everyone. And many thanks to the organizers for the invitation. It's I'm very honored to take part and provide some perspectives on millet from the point of view of the Global Crop Diversity Trust. Because we're talking during the International Year of Millets, but really what ideally would want is for every year to be the International Year of Millet. We want millet cultivation to increase and consumption to increase. We've heard of how good these crops are for potentially for livelihoods, for health, for diversification. We want a bright future for millets, but the future of millets, as with any crop, depends on the continued availability of genetic diversity of each of these crops. Without genetic diversity, we cannot adapt these crops to climate change and to new diseases. We cannot meet market demands. We cannot improve the crop, as we've heard is necessary. So we at the Global Crop Diversity Trust have supported and continuing to support various activities to help make sure that that happens, that the availability of genetic diversity of these crops continues into the long-term future. Perhaps the most important of these activities is that we provide long-term funding, guaranteed long-term funding to the ICRISAT gene bank that we've heard about, support that we hope will increase in the future. We just heard, for example, that there's safety duplication of the collection is almost complete in Svalbard, in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, and other places, so that
Luigi, sorry to disturb you. Are you moving your slides? Because we see
not yet.
Okay, got it.
I will in a minute. Despite all these various activities, what I really want to concentrate on here today is an activity that we carried out last year in preparation for the global for the International Year of Millets, and that is the preparation, the facilitation of the development of a global strategy for the conservation and use of millet genetic resources. And the URL is there, and I also put it in the chat for those of you who want to look at it in more detail. I cannot go into a huge amount of detail here, just to give you some of the major findings. The strategy covered 9 crops. You see them here, the first 5, and also these. I think we've all of them have been mentioned in previous talks, so I won't repeat them. What we did is, or what Dr. Paula Bramall, who coordinated the development of this global strategy in consultations with many others, what they did is review the status of ex situ conservation, of gene bank conservation of these crops by looking at online databases, and also consulting through a survey dozens of gene banks around the world. You see the numbers there. There are dozens of collections of these crops around the world, maintaining tens of thousands of total numbers of accessions. And we managed to contact a good proportion of them, maintaining a good proportion for most of the global holdings of these crops. So we think that the strategies is fairly representative of what's going on around the world in terms of conservation of millet genetic resources. I'll just focus on a couple of the key findings. This is a particularly important finding. I'd like you to focus here on the red portions of the graphs. This is the proportion. This shows the proportion of respondents, that is the proportions of the gene banks around the world, millet gene banks around the world, which carry out different processes on their collection on a regular basis. The red shows the gene banks around the world for which that particular process has not been carried out at all on the collection and conserve. So you see way too many collections around the world, for whatever reason, usually lack of funds, are not able to carry out basic operations, basic characterization, multiplication, regeneration, seed number calculation, basic seed health, seed viability testing on their collections. Looking at safety duplication, again, way too many collections around the world, national gene banks around the world, although they are maintaining material, are not safely duplicating the material. Again, look at the red. Those are the numbers, the proportions of gene banks around the world, national gene banks of millets around the world, which have not safely duplicated any of their material. So there is a large gap here for many gene banks. Again, mainly due to lack of funding to make sure that their collection is properly safely duplicated, so that if something happens in their gene bank, it can be retrieved. Look at also data management. Here, this is the availability of data on national gene bank collections for millets around the world. And again, although the availability of passport data, basic provenance data on collections is not too bad. Actually, it's very good, in fact. When it comes down to characterization and evaluation data, that is data on the agronomic and other characteristics of the material, the availability of such data is much less than we would want. So although we're seeing around the world a lot of collections at the national level, the support for these collections, the financial support for these collections is such that there are serious gaps in their activities, and there are serious gaps in the genetic diversity they contain as well. So this is a gap analysis that was done. You can find the results, not for, I'm afraid, not for all of the crops, but for a couple of them in the published strategy. But there are areas of the world, despite the thousands of collections, accessions that exist around the world, there are some parts of the world where there still are gaps, which have not been properly collected, even in India. Which has been enormously well collected. There are still some gaps remaining, or rather, as far as we can tell, there's a high probability that land races of these crops can still be found in those areas. So there's much to be done. And so when you look at the overall status of the availability, the conservation and availability and use of genetic diversity of these crops around the world, you see many collections with a lot of accessions, with a high proportion of unique local land races, but some of them showing evidence of considerable duplication from between collections, others less so, depending on the crop. Still relatively few accessions of crop wall relatives for many of these crops, and even for land races, which are much better collected than crop wall relatives, still gaps remain for land races for many of these crops in some countries. And it's clearly the case, based on our survey of national gene banks, that many of these national gene banks, in particular in the global south, are struggling to maintain these collections because of lack of funding. So the strategy sets out 3 large areas where intervention is necessary in order to really make sure that the genetic diversity of millets remains available into the long-term future. We need to make sure that the conservation at both national, regional, and international level is secure, and also increase the availability and exchange of germplasm, and also make sure that the use of the germplasm is facilitated, in particular through the better provision of information. And just, I think this is my last slide. The strategy sets out 3 large areas. It goes into detail in the specific activities that should be taken in these large areas, but it suggests that a global platform be established for millets to increase the engagement, not only amongst gene banks maintaining these collections, but also between gene banks and users, and not only users in the same country, but users in neighboring countries as well. So there should be the recommendation is that some kind of global platform be established to facilitate such exchanges of both information and material, that funds be made available, for example, through a competitive grant scheme, to make sure that the gene banks that really need support in order to carry out basic activities at a reasonable level of quality be supported in their efforts. You know, direct targeted funding for the national gene banks that need the most support. And then the other area where which is where intervention is recommended is that a global initiative be launched to collect material that is still available in farmers' fields and in natural areas in the case of crop or relatives before it's too late, before this material disappears for whatever reasons, climate change, land use change, etc. That a global initiative be launched to secure this material in gene banks, in properly managed gene banks, such as the ones that we mentioned, that we've heard about in ICAR and in ICRISAT and others around the world, so that this material is saved before it's too late. So those are the three areas that that were recommended for action. I encourage you to read the strategy in its entirety for more detail. But for now, thank you very much. And I pass it back to Rajiv. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Luigi. Very nicely presented and also giving very clear recommendation. I think NAAS will be heavily benefited from this one and they may get in touch with you in due course. Thank you, Luigi. Great. So now let's move forward, and we have heard this about millets in India and also ICRISAT efforts globally, including in Africa. We heard about genetic diversity. So from all these perspectives, as told earlier, that West Africa is another important region after India for that millets. So let's have a perspective from Africa. And for that, we have Dr. Ndjido Kane. He is former director of ISRA CERAAS, the Regional Center for Dryland Cropping Systems, which includes millet and sorghum and fonio. And they received that mandate from ECOWAS countries, so from all these different countries from the Western Central Africa, to lead the development of agri-innovations for West and Central Africa. At present, he is the director of the International Joint Lab on Plant and Microorganism Adaptation to Environmental Stresses. We call it LABS. And he is co-author of numerous scientific papers, including the first draft genome sequence of pearl millet, along with us, and also recently on the fonio paper. He is editor, expert consultant on climate adaptation and on biotechnology stewardship. So Ndjido, we are very happy to have you. Please proceed. Thank you very much for joining, and floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv. I hope you hear me well. And
yes, very well. Thank you.
Thank you to the organizer for the given opportunity and honor to share my thoughts. So today I will be presenting more like sharing my international perspective regarding the Millet International Year of Millet. So I entitled my presentation to highlight and stress that if you want to popularize or promote millets, it's crucial that we pay attention to political. So that's why I entitled my presentation, all above all, promoting millet is political. And I will try to show you why I say that in the case of Africa. Yes, of course, we want to promote millets because we are facing a lot of challenges, and those challenges need to be addressed. It's about growing population. It's about how we can empower women, because they are half of the workforce working in agriculture in Africa. We are facing climate change, of course, like everybody. We were hit by the COVID pandemic, and we have to feed also a lot of more and more people. Until recently also, we have the war, the conflict between countries, so which stopped the supply in some commodities, and this is really threatened West Africa and Central Africa countries. So that's why, to address these global challenges, we really have to focus about our local and own resources. What are the resources we need to promote, to popularize, to make sure that we have sovereignty? So I will share this analysis that we have done. And this analysis is, most of them are regarding the yield production, but also the impact in the economy. The food system in Africa currently is not providing sufficient nutrition diets or giving economical profit to population. So we have to revert this trend. If you can see in this graph, at the top, you have the yield decrease on millet. This is just, the same thing for sorghum, the same thing for other cereals. You see that there is a huge decrease in yields in all countries in West Africa. And we have to revert this trend. But most importantly, what we have seen is if you see the yield decrease and you do the prediction by 2050, the yield will decrease by up to 20-25% if you do not reverse the trend. And this is huge in the agricultural perspective, but also in the economic growth. And this loss also will cost billions of US dollar losses. If you can see in West Africa, we can have between 4 to 1 billion US dollar of losses in all countries in West Africa if we did not reverse this trend. That's why it's very crucial and urgent to act to try to see how we can improve and promote millets to increase agricultural production and also economy in this country. There is a need to accelerate the change. We cannot do it business as usual or try to say, yes, we're going to improve variety or we're going to write some policy. We need to act urgently and fast. I think the Dr. Kumar says that we have to have also the holistic system approach. We cannot just address one part of the solution, also problem. We have to address the seeds system, we have to land management, water management. Like yesterday, we have the World Food Day. We have to empower also the stakeholders. We have to work on supplies and value chain. We have to make sure which value chain will drive us to a new market, new product. So it's very important also to work on that. We need to popularize value chain, not maybe all of the value chain, but at least the value chain that are crucial, that play really, that bring a value addition to the population and to the consumer. So that's why it's very important to focus and identify the value chain and make sure that we are bringing this impact. So we need really and to transform in an inclusively and sustainable manner the food system in Africa for nutrition and also for food sovereignty. I'm talking about food sovereignty, what we can produce by our own to make sure that we are not relying on other countries. Fortunately, millets were most of them domesticated in Africa. They are well adapted in Africa. They are part of our diets. They are food, staple foods, and they can bring much more that we thought and we know. So that's why we have to focus on millets to revert the trend and address the challenges that we are facing and transform food systems. I will not talk more about why millet, the International Year of Millet, and doing the promotion, but I would like to focus on some I would say, characteristics of our research and why policy is very important towards that. First of all, I would like to just straight out why people are talking about always orphan crop. What is orphan? What is major crop? What is underutilized crops? By whom? What is minor crops? And what is grain for birds? So people want to categorize millets that are major crops for us, that are major crops in India and other parts of the country. So if we want to promote millets, the first thing is just to remove on our vocabulary certain words, because we are undermining millets. I think it does not go with the promotion. So that's what I say. I don't know where comes this idea about minor, but we have to revert that. So I'm very happy and glad that this year, the FAO, ICRISAT, the government, India, and all partners, they are celebrating this International Years of Millet. And I think that by changing also our way of thinking of wording, we're gonna probably contribute to this, to attain the agenda goal of 2030 for Sustainable Development Goal in the world. One other thing that I would like also to bring back is we need really to deliver millet-based food system for the reasons that I already stressed and also other speakers already said, because it's nutrition. This will allow also a lot of women and youth to be engaged in agriculture, and this also can transform the agri-food system in Africa. To do that also, we need to leverage through cutting-edge science. We have to bring science, research, innovation, but also to deliver it to people who need it, farmers, private sector, and others, and partners. We need also to engage public-private partnership to develop also new product. Here, what I wanted to say is India is really doing an excellent job about that. As long as we don't have new product, as long as the lady or the man in the house is making the same food, traditional food as usual, there is no need to have new product. We need to develop new product and reach new market to make a wider promotion. And at last, we need also to transform the consumer taste and preference, because this is something that is changing. This is something that is evolving. We need to understand, tailor what are their needs, where they get the product and how they get the product and when they need it, so we can at least respond to their needs. So it's very important that we have this in mind. I will, in my presentation, talk more about the one and the two first point, because I'm a researcher first, and we're gonna discuss about probably the engagement about the private sector and which type of food system we need. I will give you here some example at ISRA CERAAS and also our partner in the Regional Center of Excellence, what we have done through the USAID program, Sorghum and Millet Innovation Labs, just to show that we have some products that we already released or that are testing in farmers' field that cover a lot of breeding product profile. As you can see, this breeding product profile was identified by stakeholders, and our breeding program works to release those varieties. As you can see, for the first time, let's say in West Africa, we have released hybrids in West Africa, in Burkina Faso, but also in Senegal. Oops, something is happening. Okay, and also I would like to say also we are working also with ICRISAT to also diffuse and share new variety like Chakti. I know that a lot of people know about it, very rich in iron and zinc. So we are working with partnership also to respond to what are right now needed for the nutrition food in West and Central Africa. Regarding the production system also, it's very important how we produce the new variety, how we produce the new technologies, the new foods. It's very important to take that in mind. As I said previously, it's important to have a holistic view, not dealing only about seeds, but we have about other agricultural practices. What is really resilient to make sure that we are having the right planting technology, the crop pollution that is needed to reduce the losses and post-harvest losses. Another example also of products that we are developing is the instant flour. Of course, we are working about the admixture, how we can mix cereals with wheat to reduce the importation of wheat. We are working about the digestibility of the forage for livestock. We are also working how we can address the tastes and the preference of consumer by doing the sensory evaluation in the laboratory. So this is the type of work that are right now ongoing at CERAAS and through their partnership. For more, we can share this information. But in my presentation, I wanted to focus more about how we deliver this innovation to farmers by doing exposure, first year of exposure, making sure that they know the new product that we are developing and the new product are responding to their needs and adapted to their environment and the way that they are doing the agriculture. So this is really important. So we have this approach of really providing the seeds and sometimes the inputs to farmers' needs, and the farmers' needs will reach out to the bigger number of farmers. And the second year, once we create the exposure, we do the scaling up to make sure that at least most of the farmers, not always the lead, get the seeds so everybody can increase their production. Here is an example of each variety that is recently released. The area that was cultivated this new variety. If we double the production, if we double the area of production, we will significantly contribute to increase millet production and also economical benefit. But we cannot do much more, I would say, even if you have good results, good innovation, and farmers are adopting our technologies. The environment, the political environment is crucial if you want to make really big impacts. I will give you an example here. I have put two examples. The post-COVID summit between Russia and Africa we see African countries, head of government go to Russia and they ask for cereals to feed their population because they were not prepared and the stock of cereal was end. So they decided to ask for Russia to assist them by providing cereals. This was post-COVID, but also when the war between Ukraine and Russia arrived. So a lot of African country was threatened by the lack of cereals, and they have difficulty to nourish their population. The second example I will share is after this summit from Russia, Africa, African country understands that they need to act quickly, and they organize the second edition of Feeds Africa, African Feed African. So this engagement, this political engagement really is needed and crucial if you want to make sure that we are producing the food system we need and that is not dependent to other countries. So that's what I wanted to share in my presentation, why political sphere is really influencing all we are doing in our research institution. So if you want to increase the agricultural potential, yes, we are working on seed system, seed potential to have 2 tons, 3 tons, 4 tons per variety, depending on the commodities. But it's crucial that we tap to the potential of that drive the economic opportunity and social change in Africa. As you know, more than 60% of this workforce in Africa work in agriculture. And agriculture contributes to more than 20% of the GDP in most of the country. And Africa also exports more than 60% of total merchandise that are found in the world. So we need really to tap really to this power to make sure that it benefits also to Africa. There is an article that I take to the web, and I invite you to read it. It's entitled "Winning in Africa Agricultural Margin." So if we double or we triple the production in Africa, what's going to happen? What's going to happen for the farmers? What's going to happen for the economy? The farmers will have at least, I say, 3 parts. One part is the same part he's going to eat like every year, the same that he's going to have. But the second part is probably something that he can sell and have incomes. And the third part is something also he can invest or pay loans. So it means that we have really to work on increasing the production of millets in Africa if we want to make a real change. So an example is if we triple it or we double it, we can add near 20% more cereals in the worldwide production. And this is really huge. And farmers are not the only actor who should be involved in. We have really to get the engagement of the private sector to make sure that we are making profit of it. In this graph, you can see that if we increase the production of millets, of cereal in general, and we increase the land expansion where we do the cultivation, we reduce the loss, post-harvest loss, we can have 155% more benefit to current production right now. So it's really important that the private sector sees that, understands that, and also the other stakeholders so they can invest in this sector. So why I say the political will is very important. I show you that even the science have innovation, the technologies, they share it to farmers, they produce 2-3 times more, they have benefits, they sell it to retailers or intermediaries, and we have the processor who make new product, or they have developed a new product in this market. You have the agri-dealers and agro-industry who take over in the private sector who make the money. If you do not have the political will to motivate the private sector by incentive or to put the environment, political environment to encourage the agro-dealers to make business or to go to the market, if they did not support the processor or the science to develop new innovation, if they did not support by loans farmers or put them in the right conditions or assist them when they need it, so without this political will, it will be very difficult really to build a sustainable food system in Western Central Africa. So the question I would like to ask is, what type of food system do you want? Or how much we want to Are we willing to invest to build those food system where African country will be sovereign to their agriculture? So with that, I would like to thank you. I hope that I was not too long, but I wanted to share my perspective in a international African perspective. Thank you very much, Rajiv, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ndjido. So sorry that my mic was on mute, but I think this is very fantastic, very nicely presented African perspective, not only the millets, but in agriculture also in general. So this was well received. Now we would like to move towards another international perspective, and this is from United States. And we have Professor P V Varaprasad. He is coming from Kansas State University, where he is University Distinguished Professor and also R.O. Cruz Professor of Agriculture and Director of the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Collaborative Research on Sustainable Intensification at Kansas State University. His research focuses on understanding responses of crops to changing environments and developing best management strategies to improve and protect yields. He is passionate about research, education, and outreach activities and building human and institutional capacity. A world-class researcher, published large number of papers, trained many students. And on top of that, he is an elected fellow of the American Society of Agronomy, Crop Science Society of America, and American Association for the Advancement of Science. And also I should mention he is the former president of Crop Science Society of America, probably the first Indian origin person who led the society as a president. And we are very much pleased to have Professor P V Varaprasad. So please, floor is yours, Professor Prasad.
Good morning and greetings. Namaskar. Thank you so much for giving me this fantastic opportunity to speak to you. Special thanks to National Academy of Agricultural Sciences and also World Food Prize Foundation. And thank you to Rajiv and Dr. Professor Bansal for giving me this opportunity. Let me get my timer started. I was given 10 minutes, so I'll try and be within that time limit. First, I will not spend a whole lot of time because a lot of people have talked about the world of millets, diversity, value, and importance. But I'll talk a little bit about millet production, the major countries, and then quickly jump into the United States and give the status of current use of especially two crops, grain sorghum, sorghum bicolor, and pearl millet, Panicetum glaucum. What is the current use? What are the opportunities? And what are the challenges? And then provide a summary and conclusion. As we all know that there is a tremendous amount of diversity in the millets. There's many of them. The major millets, the jowar, bajra, or ragi, which are sorghum, pearl millet, and finger millet. And there are many minor millets and other crops as well, which I've given you at the bottom. And these are all very important for nutrition, climate, water, and health of the planet. And this is a summary why it is important, because they are climate resilient. Millet, pearl millet in particular, is one of the most heat tolerant crops. It is also tolerant to drought. And the water requirement of millets is extremely less, anywhere from 250 millimeters to 500 to 800 millimeters. And they also use low inputs compared to other cereals. And in terms of food and nutrition, they're extremely high in fiber, high in micronutrients, particularly iron and zinc, which are the most important micronutrient deficiencies around the world. And they're also high in vitamins, antioxidants, protein content, high energy, but also have very low calories. That's why they're important for food and nutrition. And from the health perspectives, all the millets are gluten-free. They have low glycemic index, which is useful for the diabetics. And the diabetic population is significantly increasing around the world, including in India and the United States. And they're highly nutritious. And they're part of the use in the school meal programs. And they have multiple diverse uses in terms of pharmaceutical industry as well. Therefore, because of all these three, they're also good for well-being, the resilience, diversity, less water, less greenhouse gas emissions, and better for ecosystem health. And it also provides new markets for the farmers. Now I'll quickly dip into the importance of sorghum and pearl millet production, opportunities and challenges with specific perspective from the United States. Before I go paper, I would like to just highlight this Ogallala Aquifer, which is one of the largest groundwater irrigation sources in the United States. It's a major source of irrigation for 8 different crops, but the levels of water levels in these Ogallala Aquifer across all the states, particularly those that are in the south, is depleting rapidly. And it is expected that if we use the water at this particular point of rates, majority of the places, particularly in the southern part of the Ogallala Aquifer, by end of this century, we will not have any water. And that is very, very significant. Therefore, we need to try and switch the crops away from the water guzzlers to more of a efficient water use and low water plant crops such as millets. If you look at the global production and where the United States stands in terms of its total production, I'm not talking about productivity of the land area. So this is 2020 figures. Nigeria was the largest with 12%, and Sudan was 10%, Mexico was 9%, US is 9%, and India stands at 7%. This is the total amount of produced. In US, it's only produced in one season, typically planted somewhere in April, May, and then harvested before the season in October. So that's a standard crop production calendar. And here you can quickly see how it compares with the other regions in the world. And if you look at the production of sorghum, Kansas is the largest producer. This 55% of the sorghum comes from Kansas, and the next big one is Texas. And all other states like Oklahoma, South Dakota, and other states contribute very less. And these are the productivity levels, yields in terms of tons per hectare from the last 10 years. The productivity levels are typically anywhere between 3.5 to 4 to 5 tons. But these two particular years, 2013 and then 2022-23 seasons, was extremely dry and hot. Therefore, the productivity levels were very low. But otherwise, the typical productivity levels are about 3.7 to 4 tons per hectare. And in terms of current uses, many of you may or may not know, in the United States and many parts of the Western world, primary purpose of the grain sorghum or the grains is livestock. About 80% of the grains goes to livestock feed, primarily to the cattle, and about 12% is fuel, and then 8% at others. But there is a tremendous opportunity to further increase the use and also production of grain sorghum, particularly in the recent years because of the health consciousness. There is an opportunity to increase the use as human foods. There is also increased use as a forage crop for livestock, primarily for dairy and meat. And then there's this huge demand from brewing industry, especially gluten-free beer is becoming more and more popular. And also pet food industry, particularly dogs and cats, is also gaining importance. And there are also some specialized sorghum which are gaining interest from the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, special types of sorghum, such as black sorghum, because of their high antioxidants, the extracts are extremely useful. And they're also trying to use the sorghum for packaging material, especially the biodegradable packaging material. And this was a note published just last year, August 2022. And the goal here is to increase the sorghum in the US food industry. Despite the fact that it has more fiber, more protein serving than quinoa and more than the steak, hasn't crossed the mainstream, primarily because there was no government policy supporting that. But in USDA recent update, they said that it could make a school, the whole grains or ancient whole grains should be used in the school menu programs. So effective July 2022, USDA issues a final rule that the national school lunch programs or school breakfast must come from the whole grain. And then specifically sorghum is included in that as well. So that might change the scenario. What are some of the challenges in terms of production from the farmers? Limited herbicide options, especially post-emergence grass weed control, and limited use of germplasm, because although there are a lot of total germplasm collections around the world, but the conversion program, converting them photovirus sensitive to for a period insensitive, only 10,000 of them were systematically done. And those are the ones which are being used in US. There's also low diversity in US among the A and B line seed parents, and limited accelerated breeding because we currently do not have a commercial double haploid production facility for its sorghum, so that's a possibility. And of course, you do have to maintain 2 separate breeding programs for seed parents and pollinators. And because of the extreme occurrence of drought and temperature stress, that needs to be improved. And disease and pest resistance is an issue. But other issue for food grain sorghums is antioxidants, and for livestock grazing, it's a prussic acid in the seedling. So those are some of the challenges. And then now I'll move into pearl millet. India is the largest producer of the pearl millet, and the United States ranks very low. These are the production levels around the world for the pearl millet. Pearl millet currently in the US is being used as a bird food or the poultry food, about 70 to 80 or even more than that. And the remaining is cover crops, forage, and a little bit of livestock feeding as well. But what are the opportunities moving forward? I think increased use as other livestock feed, cattle and swine is picking up. And again, pet food industry is probably one of the most important component. An increased use of forages, particularly cattle and horses, is also gaining attention. An increased use as a human foods because of the added value products, biscuits, cakes, pasta, baby food, and breads is getting up. And it is expected that 4% increase annually from now to 2027. And the other use is also being used in the demand from the pharmaceutical industry, medicines, antioxidants also because of high iron content. And this is a projections of one of the projections which they say that the market will, right now it is about 10.47 billion, but they're going to continue to increase at the rate of 4.7% annually. So there's going to be a huge demand moving forward for pearl millet in particular. So what are the challenges? It's relatively new crop in the United States and has at present limited market, but that's likely to increase. And limited research and cultivar development, plant breeding, and new hybrid production. There's only very few, 1 or 2 pearl millet breeders in the public breeding systems in the United States. That's not enough. And limited germplasm in use as well. And of course, there's also limited funding from federal agencies and private sector. And some of the issues are rancidity, bitterness, anti-nutrients, and low shelf life are limiting its current use in the human food despite the nutritional benefits. There also need for decortication methods and mechanization, grain processing, and lack of investment in the infrastructures are some of the challenges for pearl millet breeding in the United States. To summarize, so most of the current use is limited to livestock and poultry, and limited germplasms are being used compared to other cereals. They are nutritious, healthy, and more climate resilient compared to other cereals. Productivity gains are lower, but that trend could change, and there are excellent opportunities for new markets, particularly as human food because of the high nutrition and health benefits. And further research on bioavailability and anti-nutrients is needed. Specifically, data collection on human subjects and nutritional health benefits is limited and required. And then there are also some challenges in terms of hybrids and breeding methods, herbicide options, and mechanizations, as I mentioned. And limited funding is an issue as well. But I truly believe that it might change and provide, because there's going to be improved market opportunity. And if we can provide price support and social awareness campaigns and health benefits, millets will be improved much more in US. With that, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this fantastic opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you very much. Sorry, it took 1 minute more, 11-minute mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Varaprasad. I think this was fantastic, and several things which you told, many of us may not be aware that, like in United States now, you are going for this school meal that 20% should be for the food grains and many other additional new things. So thank you very much for providing this perspective. And now we would like to invite our last and final finalist, Ms Joanna Kane-Potaka, who is the Deputy Director General, Strategy, Engagement and Impact with International Rice Research Institute. Joanna started her career as an economist in Australia and moved into market research, marketing, strategies, science uptake, communications, and related areas. She has worked for 5 CGIAR research centers and most recently 9 years with ICRISAT, where she was ADG and Executive Director of Smart Food, and having joined IRRI early this year. She will present a smart food approach, which she started at ICRISAT. So we are very much pleased to have you, Joanna. Please, we are looking forward to hear from you, Joanna, please.
Okay, thank you, Rajiv, and it's an honour to be able to participate with the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, an esteemed organisation. So thanks for the opportunity. I was asked to talk on the smart food approach. Now, smart food was a global movement that we started approximately 10 years ago, and the biggest focus was working with the millets. And the thinking behind this was that, I'll just let you know I don't have slides, so I'll just talk. Yeah, the thinking behind it was that really if we want to make big impact, then we need to work with the staples. And we saw 2 approaches to working with staples. One was making the current staples smarter, and the other part was diversifying the staples. But if you were going to diversify the staples, you want to diversify them with something that's highly valuable and got a lot of value to it. And of course, millets was seen as the best first way to diversify the staples. And of course, we saw the big value of the millets, and hence we termed the phrase good for you, good for the planet, good for the farmer. And everyone knows about the good for you, the amazing health and nutrition benefits, the good for the planet, the environmental benefits, and good for the farmer because of their resilience, needing fewer inputs, the multiple uses, etc. However, we said it's not really good for the farmer unless we can drive the demand. And although we saw huge needs, back then, 10 years ago, we saw the biggest need at the time was to really drive the demand. We knew a lot more was needed, but we felt that that was the biggest missing piece to then start moving in the other areas. And actually, we had a lot of kickback at the time where people said, oh, you'll never change people's behaviors and what they want to eat. And even if you did change it, we don't have the supplies to match it. But it's a chicken and egg situation. But we just saw such value in millets. We said, no, this is worthy of huge efforts. The biggest challenge we saw at the time was what we called the food system divide. So what we'd had, just like with any divide, if you invest in it, well, especially with what we call the big 3, the wheat, maize and rice, they'd had so much investment. They were highly successful. The more viable and profitable and successful they were, the more they attracted more investment. And then of course their value chains were even more developed. They were more successful, they attracted more investment. And what that meant is it was harder for a new staple to come back in. And to come, to have another staple, to go from the big 3 to the big 4, the big 5, and so on, and to diversify the staples, because you're having to come into a market of very well-developed value chains, very well-known products. That as a big challenge, but something that we needed to take on, and millets being the crop because we also believe that to break that divide, we really focus on just 1 or 2 crops. We had a belief in supporting all diversity, etc. Great value.
It seems Joanna's connection is not really good. So meanwhile, when Joanna is coming, in the case, if any of our participants or delegates have some question, they can type the question in the chat box. Joanna is back. Yes. So Joanna, please. Yeah. We see you two windows. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Joanna, you are on mute. You need to unmute and then continue, please. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I just changed. I think the internet went down in the or was slow in the hotel, so I just quickly changed over to my phone.
Just.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was just mentioning about IIMR is another organization that was highly innovative and visionary way back a long time ago, and possibly the only ICAR institute that really moved from not just breeding and the agricultural angle to really seeing that driving the demand, working with food processors, etc., was really necessary and complemented. So DCAN Development Society, that's another example of an organization that was working on trying to drive demand for millets. What we saw when we talked about driving demand with the Smart Food Initiative, it wasn't just really talking about consumer demand. We saw that what we needed to do was drive the demand across that whole value chain. Certainly the consumers, it was needed, but of course we knew we could never reach all the consumers. I mean, that's massive. So you had to work with others as well to try to influence along the whole value chain. So working with researchers, getting researchers sort of seeing the value of working with millets, working with governments, getting them to see the value of supporting the millet industry, development investors, trying to get them to see the value, the media, and of course we found really important were the food processors. What we saw as a way to really build the demand for millets, because at the time they had, and not just in India, in many countries where they were originally the traditional staple, they'd become the crop for the poor people or an old-fashioned food. So working with food processors and the startups and entrepreneurs in developing modern, convenient products, we felt was a really good way to build the demand. So us, IMR, others worked very closely with the food processors to support them in developing modern, convenient millet products. Now, we knew at the time that meant that it often was only targeting the high-end urban market. And our aim was to bring millets back as a staple, which means you've got to reach the mass market. However, we saw that this was still an extremely important step because it was helping change the image of millets. It was helping making them more the aspirational food, and that was a first step towards getting them to the mass market. So that was sort of one of the approaches that we took. So some of the other specific things that we took is that we thought was important for driving that demand for millets is we started working on what we call the case for millets, the scientific back case for how millets are good for you, good for the planet, good for the farmer. Now, a lot of information existed. We didn't expect we had to recreate the wheel, but a lot of that information was in scientific journals and spread all around. So what we were trying to do is bring that together and get it into an easy way that people could use it and understand it. And we were still building that. I mean, it was something that was continually being built on as more stood about, as mentioned by research has been done on millet. So there were still a lot of gaps in information. We spent more time on the nutrition side and doing a lot of our own systematic reviews and meta-analyses to try to analyse across all the studies that had been done, what could you say, what couldn't you claim about millets from a nutrition and health perspective, and where are the gaps? And there's still a lot of gaps. And so I highly support what a lot of the other speakers have said, that we need a lot more work on the research. And I would say we need to build that case more with the scientific backing, what we can and can't claim about millets, and where those gaps are, what we don't know. So that's sort of where the research priority should be. As part of Smart Food, we also did a lot of promotional work. So many years ago, we created Smart Food ambassadors. We had chefs. We also had the First Lady of Niger in Africa, and others as our ambassadors. Actually, the First Lady in Niger was amazingly supportive, and she started the very first African sort of millet fair, which she started annually. And it had a science conference, but it also had displays, and they brought in cooking shows. They asked us to train all the parliamentary and president chefs on how to use millets. So that was pretty amazing. And of course, we did webinars and lots of discussions at meetings, lots of conferences, etc., to really spread the word. And as mentioned before, we really tried to work hard with SMEs and entrepreneurs in the millet product space. What I feel is the big gap now. There was a lot of support and a lot of incubators out there helping support startups in millets. The big gap now is how they scale. And there's very little help in any industry, it's not just millets, how SMEs can then scale. That's their biggest challenge. There's a lot of help to start up. And a lot of these millet SMEs are still really struggling. They struggle just like the farmers do too. And so there is a need to help them scale, and the different methods for that we could talk about another time. Another thing that we worked on was policy and policymakers, and trying to get, one, a level playing field for millets, but two, the incentivization. And India's really moved ahead hugely in that space. It's amazing what the governments have done. But back 10 years ago, I remember one example where we went to one state minister and talked about this approach and the need to drive the demand, not just to support the farmers, because the farmers need that demand to be able to grow more millets. And the minister really took that on, and I think was the first agricultural minister in India, because this is about a whole program working with chefs and SMEs and really working on the demand side, not just the production side. So that was pretty exciting to see that happen. We also worked a lot with the development agencies, trying to get them to understand the value of millets. And I remember once when we were working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we sent them the nutrition data about millets. And of course, as we all know, the finger millet or ragi has 3 times the amount of calcium as milk. And the Gates Foundation absolutely didn't believe that. They said, oh no, that data is totally wrong. That could not be possible. And it took us a long time to try to convince them that that is correct data. It really does have that huge nutritional value. So just talking with people, just getting some of the movers and shakers on board and really knowing the value of millets was really, really important, and took time and effort to do that. So just some other ideas I had for the future. I mean, I agree with what everybody else has said to date, and probably there's just one point that's a little similar to everybody else, is that I saw that it's a lot's been done to drive demand, and of course a huge amount more is needed. But what I see as the biggest barrier right now is that, and you saw in the data of the graphs, you know, the farmers aren't necessarily wanting to grow more millets. So it's obviously not viable enough for them. So I think the need of the hour right now, whereas before it was starting that driving of the demand, the need of the hour right now is making it more viable for the farmers and working on the yields of millets and the productivity. Of course, everything needs to happen in unison, but I really feel that's the biggest gap right now. But some other areas to consider that haven't been talked about tonight, so I'll only focus on that. What we've found in our work in trying to bring the case together for millet is that the nutrition value varies significantly based on the variety. Also where the millet is grown, but we had less information on that. But by variety, you can triple or even quadruple the amount of iron or zinc just by which you choose. And of course, and when you see if they just have one data point of, say, iron in pearl millet and iron in foxtail millet, etc. Well, really, it's misleading because there is so much variation by variety. The only exception we found is the calcium in finger millet. That's always super high so far, what we found in any variety. However, the other nutrients, the micro and macronutrients, can vary so much that what it means is when we have, for example, social programs, we should be looking at this by variety. So if we're looking at school feeding programs, we're looking at Anganwadis, etc., then this is an opportunity for the government to actually identify the high nutrient variety, or highest, they're all high, the highest nutrient varieties of the millet, work with the farmers to grow that to supply these social programs. And if we can triple the amount of iron just by the right variety, that's huge. That makes a really big difference. So I really think the industry, we need to start working more by variety. And same with developing products. So of course, the entrepreneurs, the food processors would love to have the higher variety, but I mean, there's no way they can know the variety. It's very difficult to say, I want supplies of this particular variety. So we really would need help from the government and ways in which that we could have it so the industry is set up by variety as well. Another suggestion would be, I think, looking at the processed products, how could we help with the quality of those? We've got a huge range of products. Quality varies, and quality also I'm talking about as well by nutrition level. You've heard of greenwashing. Well, there is an opportunity that can be nutrition washing as well. And I've seen out there products that are advertised as millet muesli. And if you look at the ingredients and the detail on the back, which very, very few consumers do, it's got 2% millet. So it's leveraging the fact that consumers know that millets are healthy, but they've hardly got any millet. Or some of the biscuits and other products where if you read the detail, it's 30% saturated fat or 30% sugar. And so it's sort of not really what you would call a healthy product. So if there were ways, maybe through certification or other ways, to help with the quality of products, I think it would help keep the consumers valuing the products. Another area that relates to that is what I mentioned before about supporting the SMEs to go to scale. I think we need to help with that, and there are methods for that. The last point I'd like to make that I think is important that hasn't been mentioned to date is what we want to do is make sure millets don't go the route that other grains have gone and get polished. Now, the minor millets have a higher risk because, I mean, the sorghum, pearl millet and finger millet are naked grains, so they don't have to be dehulled, but the others have to be dehulled, which means there's even a bigger risk that they then might also get further processed and polished. Now, with something like rice, a consumer in general, a consumer can see, oh, white rice, it's polished, brown rice, it's whole grain. The consumer doesn't have that ability with millets. Maybe a scientist that knows the millets in detail can recognize it. The consumer won't. We don't have that distinct color variation. And of course, some processors are polishing the millets because they'll then cook quicker, lighter flavor, longer storage life, etc. So I think it's really important if we can have methods for, again, it could be some sort of labeling or some process, and also getting behind encouraging and pushing for the whole grain millets before it becomes a problem. So thank you, Rajiv, and everybody, and I'm happy for any questions if necessary afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. This is really wonderful. It has been a long journey for smart food, but I think this is really fantastic to see the fruits, and you have done remarkable work, and your leadership really provided a lot of good things for the millet industry. So this is fantastic. Thank you. So thanks everybody, all the panelists. I think they did really wonderful job, and some of them, they are still with us. And what we will do that, though we are running out time, but we will still go ahead for another 15-20 minutes for having some questions. And I would also like to mention that some colleagues already made some interventions, including Professor P.K. Joshi, who's left, but he mentioned about 4 different areas like need characterization of available genetic material for higher yields. He mentioned about that need for increasing the yield. Also, he mentioned that India must take a leadership role in research and development of millets. And 4th point, he mentioned there is a need to develop food for new consumers so that we can have that tasty food products. So like these kind of things, there are many other suggestions they came out in these discussions. But I would like to take up a few questions, and we'll like to ask our panelist to answer. Dr. Tara Satyavathi, if you are there, can you please answer one question? And this is related to that despite of all these advances, though this question is from Dr. Mamji Madam, is about just genetic engineering, but you can also include genetics and breeding. So the question is that why there are not much yield advantages so far. So what are the reasons?
Hello, we can't hear.
You cannot hear, sir?
Rajiv, we can't hear you.
We are able to hear, sir. We are able to hear you.
Oh, you are not able to hear me?
No, we are able to hear.
Okay. So, Professor R.V. Singh, sir, all the other people are able to hear me. So I'm not sure whether there's some issue with your laptop or computer, sir. If you please check. And meanwhile, we request Dr. Tara Satyavathi to please answer this question.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv, and thank you, Dr. Bamji Madam, for a very appropriate question and rightly pointed out. We have technologies which are the varieties, hybrids, which are developed in different millets, especially hybrids in pearl millet and sorghum, and varieties in small millets, ragi, and others. Now, as mentioned before, most of the times the millets are grown on very marginal soils with low inputs and low moisture, because they're rain fed, and whatever rain is coming, that is what is grown. If there are interventions like even one irrigation, it is going to improve the yield, and adding sufficient amount of nutrients, that also is going to improve the yield. Increasing the organic matter content, that is also going to improve the yield. We have, I mentioned in my talk that we have some special niche areas which have been identified. In case of pearl millet, I said summer pearl millet. This crop is taken immediately after the potato is harvested, and it solely depends on the residual nutrients in the potato field. And during this time, it is taken in Gujarat and southern Rajasthan, where the water is available. They give the irrigation through sprinklers. The temperature is high, and the nutrients are available in plenty in the soil after the potato crop. And the yields there recorded are nearly 6 to 7 tons per hectare, which is not less than rice or wheat. Yeah. Similarly, we also have demonstrated and cases where sorghum is taken after rice as rice fallow crop. There also the same condition, the residual nutrients of the rice crop and the water given by the farmer. Again, records say that the yields are obtained to extent of 5 to 6 tons per hectare.
Yeah.
In ragi, we have a system of cultivation called holi or guri, where they say they take up like system rice intensification, SRI. Here we have a system millet intensification, where they take up, transplant this ragi seedlings, and then through different cultural practices, they increase the number of tillers and also increase the input. So we have cases where we can increase the yield.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madam. So I think that more important thing is that not only genetics, we should have the appropriate agronomy also, and we can realize this yield. That's very good. Now, another quick question to Dr. Varaprasad. Though you answered this thing online, but it will be good for understanding for all the other people. And this is coming from Darshana Patra. And question is that how are the various roadblocks of extraction of millet bran oils, especially from foxtail millet, and how they can be troubleshooted towards its acceptance and development towards edible and non-edible oils, please. Yeah.
It's great. Great. Thank you very much for that question. I think I know where you're coming from because bran oil, particularly from the rice, has been tremendously used for multiple purposes. And in brief, in rice, they use multiple technologies. One is chemical extraction, another one is cold press, and another one is another was a heating process. So those three are very commonly used, but the productivity levels from the hot extraction process is much better than the cold extraction process. But in terms of the development of that technology, particularly in the United States, it's not there because we do not really grow enough of the foxtail millet. The product is not there, the market is not there, so we're not doing much work. But I'm pretty sure that the process used in the rice or the other grains could be easily used, especially the chemical, the cold press, and the hot oil extraction. I'm sure IIMR probably is doing some sort of activity in that direction. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more question, and I think this is Joanna, though you mentioned in your presentation, but will be good that if you can answer. Question is how we can generate or increase the market demand of millet, because farmers want to grow millets, but due to lack of market demand, farmers are not capable to grow the millets.
Yeah, okay. Driving demand. It's going to take a lot of different ways to do that. I still think going through working with getting the right products on the market is absolutely key, and modern convenient products. And then programs around the awareness about millets. I mean, really, a government could do a major national campaign about millets, like in India did about eggs many years ago. And of course, because of the International Year of Millet, India actually has been doing that. And other countries have too. I think it's also going to take getting the large companies involved. I mean, I'm personally a big fan of SMEs, but I think we also need the big multinational companies there because they will have the big advertising budgets. They reach the masses. There's a number of very successful entrepreneurs that are growing. They're really getting to that medium size. Slurp Farms is one example, but there's many. And they're, starting to export. They're starting to set up in other countries. So it is happening, but we need it on larger scale for it to really make a difference for the farmers to grow significant extra quantities.
Okay. Very good. So there are many questions in short, because of shortage of time, we cannot take many questions, but very quickly, Professor R.V. Singh, sir, can you hear us now?
I think he's trying to
sir,
log
you
in.
need to unmute. You need to unmute.
Unmuted.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think Professor R.V. Singh is trying to log in again as he telephoned me.
I logged in.
He has already logged in. Yeah.
I
Sir, we
logged
can
in.
hear you also now. We can hear you also now.
Yes.
So we will like to request you also for giving very brief remarks in 1 to 2 minutes about what is your vision or view. We will like to hear from you as well, sir. And after that, I would like to request maybe Professor Surinder Vasil, sir, as well. So very briefly, so it will be really good to have your guidance as well.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, let me congratulate NAAS for a wonderful initiative. All the speakers have done wonderfully well. I think it is just a treat to listen to all of them. They have done a great job. I would like to put up a couple of new points, which possibly may be of interest, that we should be able to legitimize these developments academically. Also in schools, colleges, and universities, the curricula and the details should be changed so that now the younger generations, the youth, should also be educated. They are the farmers of tomorrow. And they are the startups and the entrepreneurs and so on and so forth. So I think this will be very important for us to provide the academic contextuality for the development of millets.
Okay.
This is one very important aspect that should find a place in our system. Two, there has to be a very strong move for developing multidisciplinarity. Multidisciplinary approach to the entire thing for scaling up, for the like ICR, ICMR, the health, all concerned in ministries should become really involved in this in true sense. And there should be a mechanism. It is not by saying, a national mechanism should be created in each country so that this kind of multidisciplinarity collaboration becomes important. Third thing I feel, which is very important, that the science of discovery, it is the investment that you put in the science of discovery should also be connected with the science of delivery. Now, what we discover, we must deliver it to those along the value chain so that all stakeholders become a partner in this system. And therefore, a point which is very important, that the corporate sector, its responsibility, the big, industrialists and so on and so forth, private sector, they all should really see to it as an opportunity, and therefore the integration of science social responsibility with the corporate sector social responsibility. And that will provide whatever you discover will reach the ultimate user. And finally, I will say that point which was mentioned by Dr. Pathak, Himanshu Pathak, that friends, this is the beginning, must sustain our interest, intensify our interest, invest ourselves in this total process so that the continuity that has really been initiated now should be able to intensify our efforts to really give the due push to the millets, which are so very important, and therefore the entire thing, diversification, intensification, integrated farming systems, and incentivization, all these things should work together. So I think these are 4 or 5 general points which should be kept in mind as we proceed along for really promoting the millets, actually, the Sri Anna and Maharishi Abhiyan, that will be very successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for this very nice interventions. And I think these are very much required. Thank you. May I request Dr. Surinder Vasil, sir? Please, sir, if we can hear something from you as well. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Hello. Well,
yes, sir.
All the presentations were quite good, now, I think from the breeding standpoint, I strongly believe, right now there is a time there should be a blend of conventional and non-conventional technologies. All the new tools should be used wherever we can. That's very important. I think the 2 crops which have a tremendous potential, in my opinion, is those where hybrid technology can be used very successfully. And I think pearl millet and sorghum. And I think a lot of good germplasm has been developed, and there has been a very good collaboration, at least in the case of sorghum, I know, at the international level. lot of good varieties that have been developed. They should be used here. There is no question. One thing which is missing, in my opinion, is even though we have a lot of accessions, there are a lot of duplications, I think we must have some core collections, or mini core, and that information should be available to the breeders so that they can concentrate and working on those kind of things there. Another thing is we should have strategies, we should do more with less. That is very important in my opinion. It should be efficient. It should be taking, no error proof technologies which are important. Sometimes I think how also to bring private sector into action, So I think there are ways, one area which is very important, which everyone does it, is development of pedigree populations, And these could be 2-parent, 3-parent, or more parent, depending on that one. And then I think we should use simple techniques of making synthetic, which are much more effective, which most people, just like bulk entry method, not very many people in the breeding program use, which is very, very effective. We should use it. So hybrid technology, at least my own experience in maize is that you can develop a single strategy which can be very effective for all kinds of problems, which can involve all kinds of disciplines. So that is something very, very important. But I think the important thing is to identify the most potential material. And then I think we should have a clear-cut germplasm management system, which not very many people use. We should have some kind of system where you have the high-performing materials, low-performing material, medium, and then how to use them very effectively in the breeding program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. These are very good suggestions, very good guidance. And I think going forward, Dr. Tara Satyavathi has already taken the note, especially for the breeding related things. So, and hybrid breeding program is very successful. And based on these things, if Ndjido Kane, if you are still there, and as in India, they already have shown very good progress through the hybrid breeding program. What is your view and how things are moving there in West Africa for the hybrid pulse millet or hybrid sorghum? Would you like to share some perspective from there, Ndjido?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think with what I see, and we are working with ICRISAT, there was a partnership already ongoing. We worked together to develop the hybrid in West Africa. We have released 2 hybrids, one in Burkina Faso, one in Senegal. But right now we are designing the strategy to make some single cross hybrid. We are also using the hybrid from ICRISAT, the Chachi, and another one. Yeah. So I think that we need to deliver, like our farmer said, we need to deliver the hybrid first, make sure that people are using the hybrids before developing more and more hybrids. That's what I say in my intervention, that we need really to educate people, to inform people that they don't have anything to worry about the hybrids, that this is something that will contribute to enhance their productivity. That's why I think some lessons learned from India would be welcome in West Africa.
Yeah, very good.
The same thing for sorghum too.
Thank you. One more point I would like to mention, discuss, and especially with Luigi Guarino. So Luigi, you mentioned in your interventions very nicely about that need for having a global platform or this global fund. These are really good ideas. And I think in the case, and we probably already know about wheat. So for instance, are you talking something like the wheat initiative kind of thing, or some idea or thing that what do you think that how this kind of approach or vision can be implemented? So you have some ideas, Luigi, because this is a really good approach.
Yeah, it could be like that. I mean, the idea is that from looking at the strategy and talking to the various gene banks around the world, we found that although gene banks to some extent talk to each other, many of them, this is not all of them, of course, but many of them have very few connections with the users, whether they be researchers such as yourselves, or breeders, or farmers. But of course, other gene banks do. And so the idea was to provide a flat platform whereby gene banks could learn from each other how to forge those links, both and strengthen the connections amongst gene banks so that they don't end up doing the same work. For example, maintaining too many duplicates of the same accession and therefore, wasting resources that way. But also, reach out to actual and potential users of their germplasm so that these collections are actually fulfill their potential for innovation. To too much of an extent, for many of these national gene bank in maybe smaller countries, the collections are just being neglected and are not being used, and this is a lost opportunity for the development of the crop, we think. And so one possibility, of as we said, I'm sure there are other ideas, but one possibility is to bring collection holders and users of the material together in a more formal way, so that to stimulate further use of the material, to get the diversity out from the gene banks into farmers' fields, which is where we want to see it.
Very good. Thank you very much, Luigi. This is really great. As I said, so we may have many questions, but because of time, we cannot answer everything, but would like to mention that some question like Dr. Shweta Jha, you asked about this database. I think there is new database now coming, Millets database, in the Plant Biotech Journal paper. This appeared yesterday from China, ICRISAT, and some of our involved. So you can check that. Also very good point from Dr. Hina Upadhyay from Lovely Professional University, that they are already having some of these idea importance of millets and curriculum, what Professor R.V. Singh sir was mentioning. So I think many good things have been included in these chat box. We will consider them. Yeah.
Can I give some one point, Dr. Raju?
Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Tara.
Yeah. As you have mentioned rightly that like International Wheat Initiative, the Maharishi Initiative is also something similar, which will run on the same line for millets. And we are going to come up with the different expert working groups, and then we'll be involving all those people from different parts of the world to come up with the options and research collaborations to work for improvement of millets. So this is one initiative. Maharishi is going to work in the same mode as International Wheat Initiative.
That's very nice, madam. And I think I would just like to highlight, as Luigi mentioned, and like it will be good idea, and probably you already have in your mind, that when you are now Global Center of Excellence, interact with international organizations such as Crop Diversity Trust, other platform internationally, so that all these efforts bring people from Africa, for instance, from United States. So I think having these things together, this will be really good. But thank you very much for your leadership. Okay. So I think now, if any other our fellowship, some NAAS fellow would like to say something, or if anything, then we can give 1 or 2 minutes to them. I see Dr. Sitarama sir. Do you want to say something, Dr. Sitarama, or you are fine? You have led this Sorghum Research Institute for many years.
I have quite a few points, but I think I'll write to you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so I think that with these interventions and with these very good suggestions from different people, in my opinion, this has been very successful. But now I would like to request Professor Kailash Bansal, who is the secretary of NAAS, and I would like to mention very briefly about his bio. He is an accomplished biotechnologist and agricultural scientist. After receiving his PhD from IRRI, he pursued advanced research from Harvard University from United States. And after his return from US, he occupied eminent positions as professor biotechnology at IRRI, coordinator of national project on transgenics in crop, and director of NBPGR. He was the first to get selected for the prestigious Norman Borlaug Chair, ICR National Professor for Crop Improvement in India, and also served as vice chair from Asia for the Commission on Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture of FAO. We would like to invite you, Professor Bansal, for giving your concluding remarks on behalf of the President of National Academy of Agriculture Sciences. So, Professor Bansal, please.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Rajiv Varshney. First of all, of course, I would still like to continue with the messages which we have already heard from the speakers and from many of the other participants who were there, Professor R.B. Singh, Dr. Wassel, and many others. But I would just like to mention that this was to start with a wonderful workshop, I would say, with all the leading experts from world over, including all the participants from various parts of the country, of the world. And it turns out that yes, millets are no doubt good for cultivators, for farmers, good for consumers, for their nutrition, and also good for environmental sustainability. So overall, we may say that the millets are good for people and planet. And I think we must continue with our strategy of improving it as much as we can beyond even our 2023 International Year of Millets. And I suggest, and we also have got this, of course, impression from others as well, that I think we need a global mission on millets for sustainable development of agriculture. And though it may not be applicable to all the countries in the world, but wherever millets are the major crops, or would like to be turned them to be major crops, I think this global mission, we must try to work it out, a strategy and how we can further move on it beyond 2023 as well. And I think it's also important that we give even larger emphasis on millets because of simply the fact that we are moving now towards from the mainstream production agriculture with more and more fertilizers and more inputs, I think towards lesser inputs. And I think millets could even qualify much more than rice, wheat, or maize. So therefore, there is a need, and they qualify millets as well in totality, to move towards sustainability in agriculture at the global level. So we must try to find a strategy in what way, whether increasing the demand or various other options have been already talked about it. So we should try to take into those account how we can do that. And India, of course, has been always taking a leading role in agriculture. As you know, we have the largest network in the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. We have 75 and more agricultural universities in the country, which we don't find in any parts of the world. So I think India can certainly take a big role. And we have got a very good intervention and political support from Government of India, as has been announced by our Honorable Prime Minister of India in the Union Budget of 2023 and 24. Shri Anna, the one food which should be respected the most is, in that category, and that is millets. And also, as has been told by Dr. Tara Satyavathi in IIMR, the institute we have on millets in India, there is a global center of excellence in India, and which is very good. But it's been pointed out that while we do have excellent infrastructure in these global missions, but I think what we still lack is a concrete focus using cutting-edge technologies on R&D, on research. As has been pointed out, some of other speakers as well, and also the participants like Professor R.B. Singh, Dr. Wassel, and many others. So I think despite having all that excellent infrastructure, in the name of Global Center of Excellence, ICR, it's very important. But I think we should now turn our focus more into research, using cutting-edge technologies and bringing these crops beyond what we've been calling them, as was pointed out by our speaker friend from Western African side, that we should try to not anymore call them as orphan or underutilized. We should try to bring them to the mainstream major category, and that's only possible when we enhance our efforts on research, and also not only research per se, but also investments on research is also very, very, very important. And again, it's important that we try to develop a roadmap, as has been also pointed out by our president of the Academy, Dr. Himanshu Pathak. And just for the information of all our participants and speakers and those who are here, I would like to mention that the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences is trying to organize, in fact, dates are already confirmed, that is on December 19 and 20. And on behalf of the Academy, I invite all of you to participate in that kind of discussion, where the whole idea is actually speaking to develop a roadmap. As you know, world over, various meetings, workshops, seminars, webinars have been arranged, and we are trying to collect and collate all those information and try to ultimately develop a roadmap which is implementable. What are those actions, recommendations, which are implementable? For example, as we talked about for crop improvement strategy, genetic improvement, research, the role of plant genetic resources, our friend from Crop Trust gave an emphasis on very beautifully, in a very nice manner. So far, we were under the impression that conservation, is already done or the collection, is already done in various crops. But he points this out from the kind of survey and surveillance he carried out, that we need to still continue collecting some of those germplasm, land races, or even the farmers' varieties. And before it is too late, I think we must try to do that. And there's enough data he presented that when we would try to give more emphasis on utilization of the germplasm which we have. And I have my own experience in this area, and I know globally, I think this is one thing wherein we should give much larger emphasis on compared to many other crops on millets, because millets need to be mainstreamed. And I think we can try to do that with the help of global partners, including our gene banks around the world. So coming back to this NAAS meeting, we're trying to organize on December 19 and 20, where the idea is to develop a roadmap, an implementable action plan based on what all recommendations must have been given in all those n numbers of webinars, seminars, meetings have been organized globally, including many of them in India, and including this one as we're talking about it today. So I think it is important, friends, that we must continue to enhance our efforts more beyond 2023. And that's only possible if we have a strong partnership, as has been already mentioned, with all those who presented today and all those participants. I was told by Rajiv that we had participants registered from 29 countries, and at least 140 of them out of more than 500 registered participants we had. So I think there's important to have this global partnership from these global organizations, particularly with India and Africa, and also our, ICRISAT or Global Crop Diversity Trust, and many other national and international institutions. We should try to have even both with public, corporate, and private sector. And I think it's important, therefore, that we have every reason, and this is the right time, and very happy that India took the lead, first of all, in 2018 to declare it as a National Year of Millets, and then followed by, again, we thank the United Nations for accepting, 2023 as the International Year of Millets on India's request. So India has every reason to take a leadership role, beyond this G20 as well. We witnessed it with a great success with all your partnership, those who are present here today, that we develop a global mission. And we need, therefore, and we recommendation to be also involving with government policies and government support and political support, which is always important and required. I'm sure if that is there, we can always reach and see the light at the end of the tunnel beyond even, before even we think of 2030, for example, including the achievement of our sustainable developmental goals for which, and millets could be a very important part and parcel of that journey we're trying to still cover until another next 5 to 7 years. So with this, friends, I could go on, but on behalf of Dr. Himanshu Pathak, on behalf of the Academy, it's a pleasure listening all the presenters. And over to you, Rajiv, for any other announcement or anything you want to have it. But this is a pleasure for me to attend and learn more. I would be very happy to continue as a researcher myself in this area, of biotechnology and otherwise, and contributing along with Rajiv and many others in this direction for quite some time. So thank you very much, and thank you, Rajiv, for this opportunity on behalf of the Academy given to me.
Thank you very much, Professor Bansal, for giving this concluding remarks on behalf of Academy and our President, Dr. Himanshu Pathak. Now, as a co-convener of the session and also Secretary of NAAS, may I request you to propose vote of thanks, please.
Okay, so I have this role as well, which was the original role given to me. And of course, I'll be filling in my duties. I know that if I don't, first of all, convey my sincere thanks on behalf of the Academy to the President of the Academy, who in fact motivated us to organize such a meeting, and also along with the President of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, I would like to convey our sincere thanks to the World Food Prize Foundation, Madam Natali, the program manager, for providing this kind of a collaborative support. And that support, in fact, came in only through our Foreign Secretary, Professor Rajiv Varshney. So these were the key people who really motivated us, who initiated, and came up with the concept of developing such a workshop, between these two organizations, that's the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences India and the World Food Prize Foundation. So thanks to you also, Professor Rajiv Varshney, to start with, President Dr. Himanshu Pathak of the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences and the World Food Prize, Foundation. And of course, I convey my sincere thanks to our esteemed speakers. Before I thank our, other entire fellowship, esteemed fellowship, and the members of the Executive Council, the Vice Presidents, and Professor Dr. Lakra, the Secretary of the Academy, or Dr. P.K. Joshi, Professor R.B. Singh, the former President of the Academy. I have a pleasure in thanking enough our speakers who at a very short notice, came in together to help us in the Academy to organize this very important collaborative. And it came out to be, according to me, a success. That all in this journey. And to name them, I would like to thank Dr. Tara Satyavathi. You already heard Dr. Arvind Kumar from ICRISAT, Dr. Luigi from Crop Trust, and Dr. Kane from Senegal, West Africa, Dr. Varaprasad, very early morning. Thank you, Dr. Varaprasad. For you, it was 5 a.m. I was told in USA, and Madam Joanna Kane-Potaka again joining us, with our accepting our request at the very last minute for Miri. I know how busy she is. In fact, how busy you all must be. But I'm very thankful to you all for sparing your valuable time. And particularly, Ms. Joanna again, as she was also busy with the International Rice Conference, at IRRI in Manila. So I'm very thankful to all the esteemed honored speakers to add value to the ongoing discussion on millets at the national, international, and at the global level. We have taken notes of all your presentations you have made. We will come out with Rajiv Varshney. I will request to some kind of a smart write-up, which we like to convey and distribute to all the speakers and to add value into it more. And we would like to popularize it, not only for our conference in 19th-20th of December, but at the government level or at the international level. So I'm also very thankful again to all the participants, those who joined us from various parts of the world, and those also who took part in asking questions or discussions. I'm very thankful to all of them. Though there must be some questions which probably left unanswered, we will try to still see that if we can provide some answers to them as well through email, so they can even contact us, because the email is given in the brochure which was circulated through different social media platforms. So you may kindly contact us anytime for any clarification if you still need. And I'm very thankful again to Professor Rajiv Varshney, because he's the one who is a real driving force, I would say. And he is our Foreign Secretary, who keeps us very active, and through him we are able to increase our visibility, our collaborative efforts with many international organizations. World Food Prize Foundation is one of them. And of course, I thank my friends here at the Academy, at the Secretariat, and my good friend Dr. Lakra, who is also another driving force for us at the headquarters here with me as my good friend. And he'll be from January 2024, the full-fledged Secretary of the Academy. Thanks to you, Dr. Lakra. And thanks
Dr. Lakra, sir.
All our entire fellowship. If I'm not able to take them and recognize the names because I'm sitting quite distant from the main screen. But nevertheless, one and all, I'm very thankful to you. And I'm sorry that we exceeded by about 20 minutes. But I think this was the worth, the effort. And I request again and hand over to Dr. Rajiv Varshney for the last word, if he has any. But thank you all again from the Academy's perspective.
Yeah. Thanks everybody once again, and have a great day, great evening. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you all of you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Say 5 seconds, boil extra, 1 second.